Jess, welcome. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Your work is so based in the passion you have for education, and you walk it like you talk it. You're the real deal. Can't think of any other cliche things to say off the top of my head, but you are. And I really would like people to get to know you. So, can you talk a little about the work in terms of what you're passionate about? What drives you? What keeps you going?
All right. So, without going into the entire story of my formation of as an educator, I will say before I even walked into a classroom, I walked into a gym. My mom owned a gym for tumbling, and I got to experience coaching with little kids. And there was just something special that I found about helping someone else get better at what they wanted to do. So when that little 4-year-old finally got that forward roll and was celebrating, I was right there celebrating with her. And so thinking about just that piece of helping someone achieve what they wanted to achieve, I didn't know in my 14-year-old self that would come back again in my adult world. Um, but that transitioned very nicely into being an educator. And so when I was in the classroom, when I looked at my students, I wanted to know how can I help them be the best reader they wanted to be, the best writer, thinker, student. I just wanted them to love learning, honestly, when they were in my room, but I always wanted them to feel successful. So whatever I could do to help them feel successful, feel like they had value, no matter where they were in their learning trajectory. And I loved being a classroom teacher. And then I had the opportunity to work with my peers as an instructional coach at a school. And that transferred over just as well as being in the classroom because I wanted the teachers I was working with to be as successful as they could be, to achieve what they wanted to be, to feel joy and fulfillment when they were coming in and doing the work with students. So I guess my passion, one of my big passions is building the capacity of others. So what is it that you want to achieve? What is it that you want to work on? And let's make a plan for how to get you there. So thinking about goal setting, sometimes it's coaching cycles, sometimes it's mentoring in various forms of especially when new teachers and thinking about them entering the profession and that kind of support looks a little different than coaching, but just being there to help someone else be successful. Because I am the best cheerleader for anybody and everybody that wants to improve their practice. And I will also live by example. I am constantly learning, and it's one of the things I love about being in education is it gives me an excuse to be a learner all of the time. And so I really do like to sit alongside people, and I will be honest, when I don't know something, I don't know it, but it's a great opportunity for us to figure it out together. So I'm a good thought partner, collaborative problem solver, and it's the answer isn't always very clear. So sometimes it's a let's try this and see how it works. And that's where the innovation piece, the other piece of my passion comes in, because I like to think about how might we do this? And it's a lot of reimagining what school could be, because a lot of times we get tunnel vision and this is how I've done it. This is how I'm told to do it. This is what I think it should be. And so sometimes it just helps to have someone ask the question, how could we do this? What would you like it to be? And what pieces can we modify, revise? How can we redesign this experience for students so it gets the outcome that you want? So it's a both like how can we grow, but then how can we try out things to make sure we're getting the results that we want.
And that is so you. And as I'm listening and thinking how I've gotten to know you over the years, an incidental piece to all of this is technology and how it opens doors to possibilities, just as a tool, if nothing else. How do you think about technology and all of this, especially talking to educators who may not feel like they're really technology proficient?
Yeah, technology, it is launching us forward in what could be for education. It's definitely a tool. And I will say, if you just pick out a tool and say, that's what I want to do for my lesson, it's probably not necessarily going to work the way you would like it to be because it's always learning first, tech tool second. So you've got to figure out what it is that you want to do and then find the tool that's really going to make sure that that happens. And so sometimes, and I've been guilty of myself, I get really excited of like, "Ooh, this looks really neat." And then I try to make something fit into that. And then I get disappointed in the outcome because I really didn't pick the right tool for what I wanted. But technology really can be a tool, and the reality is technology is not going away. We are going to continually rapid movement forward with technology, and we're seeing it so fast, even with AI and all the capabilities there. So, if we want to really set our students up for a world they're currently living in and the rapid development of the future they're going to be in, we can't ignore technology as a tool for learning. And honestly, we make a lot of assumptions that because they have it in their hands, they carry it around, they access it, that they know what to do with it. And I have found so many times they know how to be entertained by technology, but they don't really know how to create with technology and how to leverage it as a tool for their learning experiences. And so that takes a lot of intentionality. And we've got to remove some of the assumptions that we make about their abilities and understanding of what they have in their hands all the time.
And a real testament to the magic you create with colleagues. Um, in full transparency, the last couple of years, I've invited Jess, and she's very graciously shared her time and her talent, coaching other leaders on crafting presentations and not just the nuts and bolts of building a presentation, but then the strategies for going out there and presenting and honing that craft. And I have to say, Jess, you were so successful. The people that would sign up to work with you went out there and did it and are still doing it. And they got bit by the bug. And I didn't see that with everybody. But for you, you so personally engage with the educators that you work with that they feel that they can do it. And you have the practical strategies and skills to help them learn and practice that they feel like they can go out and do it. Can you talk a little bit? I know we're talking about presentations, but talk a little bit about that feel as a coach and how even working one-on-one or in small groups, you want educators to succeed.
Yeah, and I've been so it's been a privilege to be their coach, and I've had it's been a blessing to be able to be in the audience and cheer them on in person as they're delivering those presentations. And I haven't been able to do that for everybody, but for the ones I've been able to, it has been a joy to just see them go from idea to sharing that expertise with other people. And I guess that goes back to knowing asking them what it is that you want to do. Like, what is your outcome? What do you want to share? And for them, it's what is your expertise? What can you give voice to that maybe nobody else has a voice to? Even if it's a topic that is very common, do you have a unique experience with it that's going to give a voice and share something or perspective that hasn't been shared yet? Because there's a lot of conversations on big topics, but not everybody has the same group of students you have. Not everybody has the same professional development experiences you have. Maybe they're not implementing it in the content. So just because it's popular and other people are talking about it does not diminish the voice that you have to talk about it either. And a lot of what I do is give you a structure. There's a structure for how to plan it, but the personalization comes in on what you're passionate about and what you want to accomplish with it. So, I give them a guideline and I say, now make it yours. But then I also follow up with All right, do you want me to read your proposal for presentation? Do you want me to give you feedback on the slides that you have? Do you just want to present to me and I give you feedback on how it's coming across as an audience member? So a lot of times you know, in very little time that I I have continuous support. And so it's not a I'm going to give you this and I'm going to walk away and with my magic wand you're just going to do it, because that's very unlikely to happen, because honestly really good questions and the need for support comes in much later than the initial conversation, because honestly when you first start learning something you don't know what you don't know, so your questions aren't very weighty, and the really good questions and the really good opportunities to make sure implementation happens and make sure support, it comes later. And that's the tricky thing about, growth and support and working with someone, is you need to make sure that you have the follow-up conversations and follow-up opportunities to make sure that they're able to move forward and then they're not in a stuck point somewhere just trying to figure it out.
It's so true. And your voice of experience just rings so true in this. So all this to say, when we're talking about just the presenter, we're talking about another kind of learning experience. You're not up there just to do a rote presentation. You're not up there just to say, I'm the guru and I'm going to tell you what I know. When you work with an audience, you are sharing and learning with them, and it's very interactive. So can you talk a little bit about that when you present? What is that experience? And do you have some favorite memories of presentations and takeaways that you have from working with audiences in the past?
Yeah, I have dabbled, I think, in every form of presentations, from panels and posters and playgrounds and Ignite sessions. And I will say the one thing I really enjoy about Ignite sessions, and if you haven't experienced that, it's a great experience. It can be overwhelming as a presenter, but it's very quick. It's 5 minutes, and the slides move automatically as the person is presenting. But when you do that in a 50-minute session, you get a lot of voices in one time. And I just remember at the leadership summit for AACD in a couple months ago, maybe it was a year ago. Oh my goodness, time
Yeah.
flies. So it was a lot of women talking about their experience in leadership. And I just felt myself like getting so many ideas and inspired from the other conversations that were happening alongside my presentation, that it was just like, wow, so many voices and so many perspectives and so many examples and lessons learned you can take away from just this one session. Um, uh, I often, there's often a joke that there will be Legos involved in some sort of session that I do. I do like a good Lego activity. I feel like it's a great entry point for getting to know each other and for building some knowledge. I'm very much about purposeful play. And I very much tell educators I work with, I need you to say purposeful play, because we're not coming in here just to play. There's a reason why we have our hands on Legos. There's a reason why I have you working with this on the computer. There's an intentionality behind it. And I also really believe that teachers and educators and leaders need to be given permission to be a beginner and be a learner and have the opportunity to go through it as a learner before they're expected to have any kind of expertise and understanding. So I really, when I'm presenting to a group, I want them to know you have my permission to not know anything about this. You have my permission to feel very uncomfortable and know that it's okay for you to be a learner today. No, I don't expect you to have the answers or to have it figured out. You're allowed to just learn. And that frees people up from the expectation, because as educators, we feel like we should have expertise and we should know these things. But the reality is, things change, tools change, strategies change. There's so much change that if you're just expecting yourself to know everything all the time, you're going to get frustrated and disappointed because you you just can't keep up with it all. So you've got to allow yourself to say, "All right, I'm coming in. I'm going to learn. I don't know what the letters PBL stand for, but this lady's going to teach me by the end, and we're going to be further along at the end of this PD session than we were when we started, and that's growth enough. You don't have to be the expert at the end, and expertise takes time. So 45 minutes, you're not going to be an expert, but you're going to have some growth from where you entered into this learning session. But I do try to give opportunities, be a learner. Hopefully we have some play time, purposeful play, where we engage in some activities that bring some excitement and joy into our learning experience as well. And hopefully those also transfer, that you intentionally design some purposeful play for your students and let them have some joy in their learning as well.
And you're so supportive, for people listening, even if you're not the educator that's always out there out front taking risks and thinking, I want to figure this out. You're so supportive that it's a safe place for everybody to play and experiment and make mistakes and learn and say it's okay. So it's just a wonderful opportunity for audiences to work with you. So the last segment of our time together, I want to give you the opportunity just to give us a little sample of speaking on a topic that is of passion for you, that you can kind of give us a flavor of what it's like being in the audience and attending one of your sessions. So pick a topic off the top of your head, no pressure, and let us experience Jess.
Okay. So I want you right now to think about an outcome you're not getting, but you want to get. So what is that thing that you're just like, I can't quite accomplish this? This isn't quite working. And it could be a particular lesson, it could be a unit, it could be a project, an activity, something that you're just like, it's not hitting the mark. And then we have to roll back and start thinking, like, what is it that's missing? And sometimes we discover it's an intangible thing, like, I want my kids to enjoy this lesson and they're miserable. So sometimes when we think, man, what's missing from this is joy. And that isn't often something that you sit down and go, all right, we're going to figure out how to inject joy into this learning experience. But this is how you make small changes for big impact. So thinking about how might we redesign this particular lesson to bring some joy of learning for students? But then that also means we have to know what our students enjoy doing as well, what brings them joy. And as I get older, I realize more and more what brings me joy doesn't necessarily bring students in my classroom joy. And so I have to put down, like, well, that sounds fun to me. That component, it makes it fun for me, but is it going to translate to my students? And so some of that is thinking about, what do students enjoy doing? Well, we are in a TikTok generation. It used to be a YouTube generation. Then it was an Instagram generation. Now we're TikTok. I don't know what it'll be when you guys watch this video. It might change before we get there. But they like to make videos. They like to be recorded. So is there a way in this particular lesson that we can incorporate recording a video of some form? So maybe we were having them write an essay. Well, maybe they still form their thoughts and organize, but maybe we're putting it into a script of something they're going to record. And let's see if they can hit that mood and tone standard with some music selection or their background choices. Oh, maybe this is an opportunity that you can collaborate with your music teacher or your art teacher. And all of a sudden we're start collaborating, and we're using expertise of our colleagues, and we're also giving students something that they enjoy doing, but we're still going to hit our learning targets, our outcomes. We're still going to be aligned to standards, but we're going to make this more of an experience where there's joy in there. And the reality is, when the students have more joy in their learning, the byproduct, even if you're like, TikTok videos aren't my thing, them having joyful learning experiences is going to bring you joyful teaching experiences. So there's a mutual benefit into getting outside of your comfort zone. And trust me, the students with technology often, if it's not everybody gets it right away, you're going to have one or two that are like, I've got this figured out, and let them be student leaders in the group. And they can be your resident tech experts and say, you know what? These two really have it figured out. So if you're needing someone to help troubleshoot something you're having, speak to these two. And then you're building leadership capacity with the students in your room and elevating student expertise. In that way, it's more of a shared expertise, and you don't always have to be seen as the one who knows it all. Because reality, remember we said earlier, you don't, and you're not going to be able to keep up with it all. So give yourself permission to say, I don't know, we're going to figure this out together. And to be honest, students will be very kind to you when you say, I'm not sure, can you help me figure this out? Because they want to be helpful. They want to contribute. And when you give them opportunities to do that, it makes them feel like they have value, and it re-engages them back into the learning. So thinking about those just opportunities, the small changes, but figuring out what it is that you want. And then we can ask ourselves, how might we redesign this to get there?
And just that kind of caps everything up with an exclamation point. This is what Jess brings every day to Hamilton County Schools in Chattanooga. And by working with her through our Speakers Bureau, you can bring her to your team and learn with her and from her. Jess, I can't thank you enough. So good to see you, and looking forward to great things ahead and lots more collaboration.
It's always great talking with you, Walter.